Humanity is dismissed as the weakest species, yet an unexpected cosmic clash ignites a revolutionary shift. What if Earth held the universe's most dangerous secret? As humans face superior aliens with surprising resilience, ethical dilemmas arise. When the supposedly feeble surpass the mighty, could our overlooked traits be our ultimate power? Confronting arrogance, the universe reevaluates true strength. If you want to dive into real stories of parallel realities every day, in enigmatic, technological worlds that are completely different from our planet, subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Well, let's go. In an era where humanity is seen as the weakest link in the cosmic chain, an unexpected confrontation shakes the foundations of the universe. What if the most primitive colony could harbor the deadliest secret? Stay till the end to uncover how humans transcended their limits and instilled a fear unlike any other in an advanced alien race. Could the qualities we often overlook be our greatest strengths? The unexpected encounter in the far reaches of the galaxy, amidst the swirling nebulae and distant stars, was the realm of the Gel, an alien race renowned for their unmatched technological prowess and relentless expansionism. Across countless light years, their dominion spread like wildfire, consuming lesser worlds and establishing their rule with an iron grip. The Gel moved from planet to planet, leaving behind a legacy of conquest and technological assimilation. Their flagship, the XT-97, was a behemoth of a spacecraft, a testament to their superior engineering and military might. Aboard the XT-97, Commander Vrok stood upon the central command deck, his slender yet muscular frame draped in the traditional Gel armor, which shimmered with an iridescent hue under the artificial lighting. Vrok, a being of imposing presence, had eyes like piercing icicles, radiating a stark mixture of intelligence and ruthlessness. His reputation as an infallible leader was carved from years of victorious campaigns, and his confidence in the face of otherworldly odds was almost palpable. One day, as the XT-97 glided silently through the outer fringe of the Milky Way, its sophisticated scanners detected an anomaly. A faint signal flickered on the monitor, a signal emanating from a tiny, seemingly insignificant blue planet. Commander Vrok leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. The planet's position on the galactic map indicated it was a third-world colony, thus primitive by Gel standards. Intrigued, Vrok commanded the ship's artificial intelligence to analyze the signal. Upon closer inspection, the AI confirmed the presence of rudimentary technology. Vrok's lips curled into a smirk. This backwater planet, housing what appeared to be a human settlement, would be an effortless addition to the Gel Empire. He envisioned the ease with which they would subjugate this primitive colony, adding another star to the tapestry of their expanding domain. His mind raced with the endless possibilities that could unfold once the planet was under Gel control. Descending through the electrifying hues of the planet's atmosphere, the XT-97 resembled a wrathful deity. The sprawling human colony below seemed minuscule and outmatched. Vrok watched from the observation deck, his gaze steely and unyielding. As the ship stabilized its orbit, he relayed the initial contact protocol, a succinct message demanding the immediate surrender of the human populace. Down on the planet's surface, the human colony hummed with a strange blend of defiance and determination. Intel from planetary reconnaissance suggested humanoid figures, barely advanced for spacefaring, but their fearless demeanor was confounding. Instead of sending a message of submission, they replied to Vrok's ultimatum with what could only be described as humor and mockery, a taunt wrapped in jest. The audacity of their response ignited a fierce anger in Vrok, something he hadn't felt in a long time. How dare they challenge the might of the Gel? He issued a command to initiate the first strike, deploying their advanced energy weapons, planning to subdue the colony swiftly. From the bowels of the XT-97 emerged a barrage of beams, brilliant and destructive, aimed at decimating the human settlement. Yet when the beams connected, what they revealed was shocking: a series of kinetic missiles launched in retaliation. These missiles were rudimentary to the gel, almost relics in comparison to their advanced weaponry. But what unfolded in those split seconds defied all comprehension. The missiles, propelled with immense force and precision, cut through the gel's supposedly impenetrable shields. The XT-97 shuddered violently under the bombardment. Sections of the ship, once thought invincible, disintegrated. It was as though the human missiles held some unknown capability, ripping through gel defenses with an almost supernatural ferocity. As the ship groaned in agony, a sense of dread settled over the crew. This was inconceivable. A primitive race, capable of inflicting such devastation upon their pinnacle of technology? Panic started to spread, and the ship's alarms blared, but Vrok stood composed, his mind racing with calculations and contingency plans. He could feel the grip of arrogance slipping away, replaced by a cold, analytical realization. He barked orders for the crew to regroup and counterattack, his authoritative voice cutting through the chaos. However, the human response was relentless. Waves of kinetic energy continued to pummel the XT-97, as if the very fabric of human resolve was woven into each strike. The gel found their sophisticated strategies rendered useless against the sheer tenacity and raw power of their human adversaries. It was a scenario no simulation had ever predicted. Vrok's strategy sessions became frantic assemblies where the usual air of superiority was replaced by a growing sense of urgency. Every maneuver, every countermeasure, fell apart under the ceaseless human onslaught. The gel's formidable fleet, bolstered by technology centuries ahead, seemed fragile, a stark juxtaposition to their earlier confidence. The battle raged, each second stretching into an eternity. The once grand orchestration of space combat turned into a desperate struggle for survival. And as the human offensive intensified, it became clear to Vrok that the tipping point was upon them. Embattled and nearly shattered, the XT-97 faced its imminent disintegration. Commander Vrok, standing amidst the wreckage of his ambition and pride, felt a profound shift within him. The realization was stark and bitter. They were outmatched and outgunned, reduced to a shadow of their former glory. Desperation seeped into his bones. Gritting his teeth, he wrestled with the humiliation of issuing the command he never thought he'd give: retreat. The order echoed through the decimated halls of the XT-97, a command drenched in defeat. The remnants of the flagship, scarred and humbled, began their withdrawal, leaving a host of human warriors and strategists, unknown and underappreciated, standing victorious on their home ground. As the gel ship limped away, the stark reality of the encounter bore down upon Vrok. The once proud gel fleet was now a mere reflection of their folly. Beneath the human colony's deceptively simple exterior lay a preparation and resilience that had turned the tide. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a new power, an undying spirit veiled in primitive trappings, but capable of profound might. The battle was over, and in its wake, a seed of change took root within Vrok and his crew. The galaxy itself seemed to shift in response, no longer viewing humanity as a weak link in the cosmic chain. Commander Vrok's image flickered across the hollow communicator, his eyes glittering with the cold confidence of countless victories. The humans had mere moments to respond, accept subjugation or face annihilation. His ultimatum transmitted, he leaned back in his command chair aboard the XT-97, a hum of satisfaction lingering in the air. Yet, the response from the human colony shattered his smug demeanor, laughter and irreverent banter instead of the expected capitulation. It drenched Vrok's face with a mix of disbelief and fury, an affront unlike any he had ever encountered. Without a moment's hesitation, Vrok ordered an immediate strike against the impudent humans. His ship, a marvel of gel engineering, brimmed with advanced energy weapons and impenetrable shields. These innovations, honed over centuries of conquest, left Vrok assured of a swift and decisive victory. But the universe had a different lesson in store. From the human colony, projectiles, primitive, in Vrok's eyes, emerged, slicing through the void of space. Kinetic missiles, crude and rudimentary in appearance, shot toward the XT-97 with a momentum that seemed almost laughable to the gel crew. Yet, as these missiles collided with the gel shields, a collective gasp swept through the ranks. The advanced defenses crumbled under the kinetic energy's raw, unrelenting force. Explosions rippled through the XT-97, fracturing its sleek hull and exposing the vulnerable underbelly of gel supremacy. Within the command center, Vrok's initial confidence eroded rapidly. The control consoles around him burst with error alerts, the ship's integrity deteriorating with each subsequent hit. Crew members scrambled to assess the damage, their usually composed expressions replaced by masks of panic. How could a civilization deemed primitive deliver such carnage? As more kinetic missiles pounded the XT-97, sections of the ship began to disintegrate, sucked into the vacuum of space. Vrok struggled to maintain composure, the realization of underestimation dawning painfully. Before this engagement, humans were seen as mere practice targets within the gel's vast array of conquered systems. Now, they were formidable adversaries, wielding destruction with fearsome precision. The humans' battle strategy was bewilderingly effective. While gel weaponry relied on energy manipulation and plasma-induced disintegration, human missiles harnessed kinetic force, a simplistic yet devastatingly efficient use of physics. This unorthodox approach repeatedly punched through gel defenses, leaving the sophisticated alien technology impotent. The advanced mechanisms that had secured the gel's dominion now seemed nearly ornamental in the face of such raw, grounded ingenuity. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide, Vrok directed his forces to reconfigure their attack patterns. Fusion cannons and electromagnetic shockwaves launched in a dazzling display of power. The celestial battlefield glowed with the intensity of energy discharges and retaliatory strikes. However, the humans' retaliations grew only fiercer, their resolve unyielding despite the gel's technological superiority. Vrok's perception of time warped amidst the chaos. Every second felt like an eternity of watching his once unassailable fortress crumble. Each kinetic hit intensified the devastation, dismantling not just the physical structure of the XT-97 but also the very spirit of the gel crew. Confidence gave way to despair as compartments exploded, plasma conduits ruptured, and vital systems failed under the relentless assault. The human colony's capabilities floored the gel. Advanced though they were, their reliance on standard tactics and overwhelming force proved less effective than anticipated. The humans, though outwardly primitive, demonstrated an acute understanding of their defensive craft, maximizing the potential of their so-called archaic weaponry. Their resolve outmatched gel arrogance. Yet more than mere weaponry, there was something intangible, a spirit or an instinct in human tactics, that eclipsed the cold calculations of gel strategy. As the battle raged, Vrok's mind churned with disbelief and strategic frustration. How could an inferior race commandeer such power? The irony was almost poetic. They had embarked on what they presumed would be a routine conquest, only to be schooled in the art of war by an ostensibly primitive foe. His instincts told him to retreat, yet his pride demanded perseverance. To fall back now would redefine the gel's legacy, marking their first defeat at the hands of creatures they had deemed inconsequential. Amidst the barrages and counterattacks, the ship's AI recalibrated the defense matrices, attempting to adapt to the unprecedented nature of the human offensive. Despite these efforts, the kinetic missiles continued their onslaught with relentless efficiency. Sections of artificial gravity systems failed, causing disarray as crew members scrambled for stability. The intricate network of information relays overloaded, rendering real-time tactical assessments next to impossible. For the first time in his decorated career, Vrok felt the cold fingers of fear clutch at his heart. This was not just a skirmish gone awry, but a systematic dismantling of Gel's superiority, unraveling their facade of invincibility. With the ship's hull now peppered with breaches, the environment within the XT-97 grew increasingly hostile. Life support systems were compromised, air pressure fluctuated dangerously, and artificial intelligence protocols prioritized emergency response over combat efficiency. In the heart of the melee, the human colony's command kept issuing decisive strikes, seemingly predicting Gel moves with uncanny accuracy. It was as if they had a preternatural insight into Gel limitations, exploiting each one with surgical precision. Their missiles continued to pierce through, breaching security perimeters and obliterating vital components. In contrast, the Gel's counteroffensive, despite its sophistication, floundered without a tangible impact. Even in the face of rapidly accumulating losses, Vrok's resolve did not waver. He barked orders with a ferocity earned through countless campaigns. Yet behind the facade, he recognized the shifting momentum. It was a new and bitter reality. The erstwhile conquerors now stood on the precipice of defeat, felled by a race they had vastly underestimated. As another salvo of kinetic missiles hammered the XT-97, its framework groaned under the pressure, parts of the vessel now floating as derelict debris in the void. A significant fissure opened along the primary energy conduit, causing cascading failures in propulsion and shield systems. Containment fields flickered and vanished, exposing critical areas of the ship to the harshness of space. Vrok's thoughts, muddled by the cacophony of destruction, seized upon a stark choice: continue the fruitless battle or retreat to preserve what remained of his crew and technology. The decision, both devastating and inevitable, weighed heavily. To flee was to acknowledge defeat, admitting that the Gel's perception of human inferiority was deeply flawed. But to stay meant complete annihilation. As the last layer of pride crumbled away, Vrok issued the command for full retreat. The order transmitted through emergency relays with an urgency unmatched before. As the XT-97 buckled under the human attack, Commander Vrok stood on the bridge, veins throbbing in his elongated temples, his blue-hued skin darkening with stress. An officer, tentacles twitching nervously, reported more casualties and significant destruction. The formidable Gel warship, once the epitome of invincibility, now resembled a crippled beast bleeding into the void. Around him, the crew was a blend of frantic movement and frozen terror, their alien visages reflecting their disbelief. The humans, those seemingly primitive beings, had sprung a trap spectacularly lethal. Each kinetic missile that pounded their hull carried an insidious message: you are vulnerable. Vrok's eyes darted to the tactical display. His clenching fists left indentations on the metal railing. Squad commanders barked orders and reports over the intercom, their voices tinged with panic, as automated repair systems struggled to compensate for the onslaught. The infernal humans, utilizing their crude but extraordinarily effective projectiles, had not only pierced their energy shields but also ignited secondary explosions within the ship's core. Despite the advanced gel nanotechnology composing the XT-97's structure, the hull breaches were expanding at an alarming rate. The shield generators struggled to maintain integrity, overloaded by the ceaseless human bombardment. The air smelled of burnt circuits and a faint trace of ozone, indications of the severe internal damage. Asqui, the chief engineer, approached Vrok hurriedly, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with urgency. Her words dripped with an edge of exasperation and fear. "Commander, the damage is extensive. Our nanobots can't keep up with these kinetic impacts." We need to strategize differently. Vrok's mind raced, his strategic training fighting against the rising tide of despair. How had they miscalculated so drastically? These humans were supposed to be on the threshold of interstellar travel, nothing more. Instead, they wielded a deadly arsenal that shredded the finest gel defenses with haunting precision. To regain composure, Vrok steeled himself by reflecting on a lesson from his military academy days. In chaos, there is opportunity. This was a tenet of gel combat philosophy, as ancient as their civilization itself. He couldn't let defeatism creep in. The intermittent shudders as each human missile struck the XT-97 became a metronome of doom, reminding Vrok that action was imperative. He convened a tactical retreat to the war room. There, the holographic table presented a 3D model of their plight, glowing red breaches dotted the ship's framework. Vrok's second-in-command, Xorla, a being whose multiple eyes rotated nervously, highlighted potential vulnerabilities in the human offensive. The humans' projectiles, while powerful, appeared to follow a predictable trajectory. Xorla proposed using what remained of their fleet's advanced targeting systems to intercept and neutralize incoming missiles before impact. Desperation forced innovation. However, time was against them. The human attacks intensified, their precise strikes exploiting even the tiniest lapses in the gel's defense. Strategic nodes of the gel command structure were systematically dismantled, each hit further stripping away their sense of superiority. The gel's vaunted energy shields, designed to withstand even the most sophisticated energy assaults, were rendered all but useless against the relentless archaic barrage. Override the security protocols on the deployment bays, Vrok ordered. Divert power from non-essential systems. We need more interceptor drones in space, now. Technicians scurried to reroute power and implement the latest commands. Dim lights flickered, and the air temperature dropped slightly, diverting life support to give all available energy to their last line of defense. Through the windows of the bridge, the dark expanse of space was punctuated by the glaring light of explosions. Nearing a critical threshold, many drones were deployed, intercepting several human projectiles before they could reach the ship. Yet, the humans seemed to have an endless supply. For each missile shot down, 2 more seemed to take its place. A squee reported back with disheartening news. The core containment was compromised, and the secondary coolant systems could fail at any moment. There was a terrifying realization among the bridge crew. They were fighting a losing battle. Panic seeped into the ranks, a rare and contagious toxin within the gel hierarchy. A muffled explosion reverberated through the hull, shaking the bridge violently. The tactical display flickered and then adjusted, showing a massive hull breach near the engine bay. There was no soothing words of comfort from Vrok, only the harsh reality their dazzling advancement had been outmatched by a crude, unforeseen power. With grim determination, Vrok turned to the communications officer. Open a channel, wide broadcast. As the comms system activated, his voice, strong but laced with a shadow of despair, echoed throughout the ship and beyond. All units, prepare for emergency maneuver Epsilon 12. We are executing a strategic withdrawal. This is not defeat, it is tactical repositioning. The order was received with a mix of muted relief and stained honor. Gel warriors prided themselves on their combat prowess. Retreat was a word they seldom uttered. Yet, the starkness of their current reality necessitated such a measure. The ship's thick armor and what remained of its shield configurations groaned under the continued impacts as they began to shift course. Their maneuver was perilous. Turning their back to the human offensive exposed them to increased risk. Yet it was their only chance. With every strained movement, the XT-97 began to edge away from the battlefield. The human missiles lessened as the humans finally recalibrated their own strategies, realizing the Gel were preparing to retreat. The immense ship turned at a snail's pace, wounded but not completely incapacitated. As they limped away into the dark void, watching the distance grow between them and the terrestrial menace, the sense of humiliation was palpable. The mighty Gel, venerated across countless star systems, had been repelled by beings they deemed inferior. Vrok stood rigid, eyes fixed on the diminishing planet on their viewscreen. His thoughts churned with turmoil. Every fiber of his being wanted to exact vengeance, to return tenfold the devastation they had suffered. Yet here they were, retreating, carrying the scars of this unexpected encounter. The strategic retreat now fully executed, the Gel fleet regrouped, battered but intact. The acknowledged command came through to break the transmission channel with the human colony. Silence enveloped the bridge, punctuated only by the groans and creaks of their beleaguered starship. As they traveled through the emptiness of space, Vrok's thoughts turned towards the future. They had witnessed a myth in the making. The primitive human colony had demonstrated an improbable, almost mythical, strength. The galaxy would need to be informed. But more urgently, the Gel would need to re-evaluate not just their technology but their very understanding of warfare and resilience. The XT-97 groaned under the strain of continuous bombardment. Once the pride of the Gel fleet, the flagship was now a wreckage of shattered dreams and fractured arrogance. The advanced systems that had once been heralded as impenetrable defenses flickered with dying light, powerless against the relentless kinetic assaults hurled by the humans. Commander Vrok stood on the command deck, his face etched with disbelief and an emotion he hadn't felt in decades: fear. The sleek, white metal panels around him were riddled with cracks, and the air smelled of burnt circuitry. The once silent hum of the ship's core had turned into a stuttering whine as it struggled to maintain integrity. Around him, his crew members worked feverishly, their once confident and composed demeanor now replaced by frantic desperation. Eyes that once held arrogance were wide with shock, their gazes darting toward Vrok in search of guidance he could not provide. The humans' strategy was as primitive as their technology, kinetic weapons propelled with brute force. In the past, such methods would have been laughed off as obsolete, remnants of a time when interstellar civilizations had not yet harnessed the potential of energy-based weaponry. But now, it was Vrok who felt like the relic, the fool who had underestimated a species he had considered beneath him. With each impact of the missiles, he could feel the pride of his people crumbling. He cursed himself silently. How had he miscalculated so badly? How had a supposedly primitive race reduced the most advanced warship in the galaxy to a faltering wreck? His thoughts spiraled, but there was no time for introspection. The next missile struck with brutal precision, and the ship lurched violently. Sparks flew from a nearby console as the entire command deck shook. Screams erupted from several of the crew, some being flung across the room like ragdolls. A thick layer of smoke began to creep in from a breached section in the lower decks, filling the air with the acrid stench of burning metal. Vrok clung to the edge of the command panel, his knuckles white as he steadied himself. Around him, warning lights blinked in a cacophony of red. One by one, systems were failing. Life support, shields, weaponry. The entire ship was on the verge of collapse. The shields, they're failing, one of the officers reported, her voice trembling. Her normally pristine uniform was disheveled, and her face bore smudges of ash. Energy levels at critical, another crew member shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The sound of the ship's systems whining in protest grew louder, each pulse of energy drawing them closer to total failure. Vrok's mind raced, searching for any course of action that could salvage what remained of his pride. But with every option, he was met with the same grim reality. They were outmatched, outmaneuvered, and utterly defeated. The humans had stripped away the gel's technological superiority and reduced them to scrambling for survival. His heart pounded in his chest as a voice crackled over the intercom. It was a message from the human forces. Cold, calculated, devoid of emotion. Their final warning: retreat now or be obliterated. The voice echoed across the deck, each word hammering home the reality of their defeat. Vrok stared at the intercom as if it had delivered the death sentence for his entire race. His mind flashed back to the arrogance he had displayed when he first encountered the human colony. He had seen them as little more than insects to be swatted away, an easy victory that would bolster the Gel Empire's endless expansion. Now, he was faced with a choice he had never anticipated: to save what remained of his fleet or to meet a dishonorable end at the hands of these so-called primitives. With a heavy heart, he turned toward the communications officer, his voice stripped of the confidence that had once defined him. "Order a retreat," he commanded, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. There was a stunned silence on the deck. His crew, battle-hardened and disciplined, hesitated. For the Gel, retreat was not an option. It was a humiliation beyond measure, a stain on their honor. To retreat was to admit weakness, and for a race that prided itself on dominance, it was akin to death. Now, Vrok's voice cracked like a whip, cutting through the uncertainty. There was no room for hesitation, no room for pride in the face of annihilation. The communications officer scrambled to send the message. Vrok could see the reluctance in his movements, the way his hands trembled as he typed in the commands. But the retreat was issued, and the once proud Gel fleet turned its battered hulls away from the human colony. As the remaining ships limped away, Vrok allowed himself a glance at the viewscreen. Through the haze of damaged sensors, he could make out the human colony in the distance. It was still standing, untouched by the conflict that had raged around it. The humans had not even mobilized a ground force. They had relied solely on their seemingly archaic weaponry to deliver a blow that had shattered the Gel Empire's confidence. He clenched his fists, his mind a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. Shame, anger, disbelief, and above all, confusion. How could a race so primitive have defeated the might of the Gel? What secret had they harbored that had allowed them to transcend their limitations and achieve such devastating power? The remnants of the Gel fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind the wreckage of the XT-97 and the unanswered questions that haunted Vrok's every thought. He knew this was not the end of the story. The humans had revealed themselves as a force to be reckoned with, a race that defied the natural order of the universe. What was once seen as primitive had proven to be something far more dangerous. As the ship limped back toward Gel territory, Vrok retreated to his quarters, the weight of his failure pressing down on him like a leaden cloak. His thoughts were consumed by the implications of this defeat. The Gel had built their empire on the belief that they were superior to all others, that their technology and intellect would grant them dominion over the stars. But now, that belief had been shattered. The humans had done more than simply defeat a Gel fleet. They had instilled a fear that had never existed before, a fear of the unknown, of the underestimated. Vrok could feel it gnawing at the edges of his mind, a seed of doubt that would grow and spread like a virus through the Gel Empire. And yet, within that fear, there was something else. A flicker of respect. The humans had shown strength in a way that the Gel had never anticipated. They had revealed that power was not just a matter of advanced technology or superior intellect. It was something deeper, something primal, a will to survive that could not be easily understood or quantified. The retreat continued in silence, the once mighty fleet reduced to little more than a handful of ships limping back to their homeworld. The crew worked in quiet determination, their faces pale with the knowledge that their return would be met with disdain and shame. But Vrok knew that this defeat was more than just a blow to their pride. It was a turning point in the history of the Gel Empire. As the stars streaked by outside his viewport, Vrok's mind churned with possibilities. The Gel would have to adapt, to change. Their arrogance had been their downfall, and if they were to survive in a galaxy where humans existed, they would need to reassess everything they thought they knew about power and strength. But for now, there was only the retreat. The long, bitter journey back to Gel space, where the ghosts of their defeat would haunt them for generations to come. Stay with us as the story continues to unfold, revealing the true depth of the conflict between the Gel and the humans. In the shadow of defeat, new challenges and revelations await, and the galaxy will never be the same again. As the Gel retreated back to their territory, a profound change settled within Commander Vrok. The weight of their defeat was not merely the loss of a battle but an ideological implosion that resonated throughout the ship and its crew. The XT-97, scarred and battered, moved silently through the void of space, each blast marked a stark reminder of their shattered invincibility. The air within the ship felt heavier, as if the very atmosphere carried the brunt of the humbling lessons they had endured. Vrok, once fueled by boundless arrogance, now found himself awash with introspection. The echoes of kinetic missiles haunted his thoughts. Their seemingly primitive design harbored a sophisticated understanding that he had grossly underestimated. The simplicity masked a lethal intricacy, an unassuming potency that had dismantled their advanced technology with an almost poetic ruthlessness. Vrok's own reflections were mirrored in the weary eyes of his crew, each carrying the silent burden of the day's revelations. The corridor of the XT-97 hummed with the low murmur of consoles and the soft footfalls of the Gel engineers, who now worked tirelessly to maintain the ship's failing systems. Their efforts were a testament not just to their survival instinct but also to their internalization of the harsh lesson learned. Complexity did not always equate with superiority. The extensive damage to the ship was not just physical but symbolic, a rupture in their perception of supremacy. In the confines of his quarters, bathed in the dim glow of holographic projections, Vrok reviewed the battle data repeatedly. Each frame was dissected with meticulous precision, from the initial haughty ultimatum to the final, inglorious retreat. The humans had unleashed a form of warfare that, although rudimentary in appearance, demonstrated a mastery over kinetic energy that the Gel had not anticipated. Their armor, designed to counteract the most advanced energy-based attacks, had crumbled under the unrelenting physical impact of human missiles. This revelation was staggering. It forced a complete reassessment of their defensive strategies. The concept of vulnerability was a bitter pill to swallow. The Gel's civilization had thrived on the ideology of technological supremacy, underpinned by an unchallenged expansionist philosophy. Yet here, in the cold expanse of space, the realization dawned that their greatest strength was also their greatest blind spot. The humans, with their seemingly outdated methods, had exposed this flaw with devastating effectiveness. The Gel Council's response was swift. An emergency conclave convened to analyze and respond to the unprecedented defeat. Vrok's report was detailed, unflinching in its honesty. He recounted every tactical misstep and technological shortcoming, but more importantly, he emphasized the underestimated resolve and ingenuity of the humans. The council members, previously advocates of relentless expansion, listened in somber reflection. Their expressions transformed from disbelief to a profound acknowledgement of the necessary paradigm shift. Discussions at the conclave pivoted toward a recalibration of their ideologies. The era of unchecked aggression and territorial conquests needed re-evaluation. Defensive fortifications supplanted offensive strategies as their primary focus, an endeavor that required the collective ingenuity of their brightest minds. This pivot, however, wasn't merely military but philosophical, embracing a newfound ethos of respect and prudence. As Vrok's recollections unfolded before the council, he found himself contemplating the nature of strength. Human resilience, once dismissed as primitive stubbornness, now seemed an embodiment of unyielding fortitude. The simplicity of their technology was deceptive, masking a strategic brilliance that could repurpose the limitations into devastating advantages. The kinetic missiles, propelled by sheer physical force, circumvented the gel's energy-based defenses in a manner they had failed to foresee. It was a testament to an adaptability and resourcefulness that overshadowed technological complexity. In the solitude of his reflection, Vrok also grappled with the individual sacrifices and unwavering resolve of his own crew. Their disheartened faces, wearied by the strain of battle and the solitude of defeat, revealed a shared conviction, the recognition that true strength lay in understanding and respecting the potential within all beings. This encounter was a crucible that forged a collective wisdom out of the crucible of humiliation and fear. The gel's strategic doctrine evolved rapidly, and across their fleet, the ripples of change spread. New defensive modules were installed, designed to counter kinetic impacts specifically. Training simulations now included scenarios that mirrored the human tactics, ensuring that every gel soldier, commander, and engineer could anticipate and counteract similar strategies. This meticulous preparedness was not born of fear but respect. Intergalactic diplomacy also took a new turn. Ambassadors from the gel began to approach other civilizations with a respect previously absent, recognizing the vast spectrum of potential strengths hidden behind diverse technologies and cultural practices. Their communication with human entities transformed from condescension to open negotiation, acknowledging the formidable capabilities that lay within those they had once deemed inferior. Across the galaxy, the reputation of humans morphed into that of guarded respect, seasoned with an aura of mystique. Other alien races noted the shift in gel attitudes. Imperialistic endeavors were tempered with caution, recognizing that underestimation could lead to unforeseen devastation. Humans, once seen as the cosmic footnotes, were now recognized as the unpredictable guardians of their realm, capable of bringing even the mightiest to their knees. The universe seemed perceptibly altered by this encounter. The gel, once the epitome of interstellar dominance, now served as a cautionary tale, a narrative of hubris dismantled by unassuming fortitude. The lessons learned transcended mere tactical adaptations. They permeated the collective consciousness of the gel, ushering an era marked by humility and vigilance. As the XT-97 limped home, Vrok stood before the observation deck, gazing into the star-studded abyss. Each point of light represented potential, an infinite spectrum of strengths and lessons waiting to be discovered. The defeat, instead of breaking them, had forged a new path, a pathway illuminated by the wisdom of respect and the acknowledgement of diverse potentials. The conquest mentality was replaced by a doctrine of coexistence, understanding that true strength lay not in domination, but in the recognition and respect of the profound strengths hidden within every civilization. The galaxy, ever expansive and mysterious, now held a deeper respect for the once overlooked humans. They had demonstrated that simplicity could mask an insurmountable strength, and that underestimation was the greatest folly. This epiphany forged a new ethos among the gel, ensuring that their future engagements would be founded on respect and preparedness, forever haunted and guided by the lessons learned from the formidable defenders of Earth. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.